Hello, hello, my friend. Welcome back. So glad that you're joining me tonight. It's a special night. We have a couple of guests. This is a channel where we like to cut through the sensationalism and kind of the fluff in true crime, get right to the nitty gritty. And typically, the cases that we tend to look at together are cases that have some sort of end in it. When I started my YouTube journey, I really wanted to help solve crimes. And this is something that we can help with. We are, of course, talking about the case of missing 14-year-old Aubrey Wu from Pennsylvania. She's been missing since January 10th. I am very happy to be joined by her parents tonight. So join me in welcoming John Gehrman and Jade Wu. Thank you both for being here.
Thank you, Gavin.
Thank you for the opportunity.
Glad you're here. I understand you two are going through a very difficult time here in your life. It is a parent's worst nightmare. I told you before we started, I think you're handling it with grace, and I also think you're handling it with just the right amount of grit. You're working hard to bring your daughter home, and I applaud you for that.
Thank you.
Can we just start off? I'd really like to make this less of an interview and more of a conversation. Can we just start off learning a little bit about your daughter, Aubrey? Jade, can you tell us a little bit about her when she was growing up? Tell us a little bit about who she is.
So, Aubrey, she was born in China, and then she came to the U.S. when she was about 3 years old. And I enrolled her to school, so she started school in California from preschool. So her main language is English. She always really like bubbly personality and like to participate in all kinds of activities. And she's also really into art as well. Growing up, she's a very fun kid to be with, and she's also very smart and very like caring as well. Through the time that growing up, that I because of my study and then finish my school and then continue like more education, we moved from California to East Coast about 3 years ago. And yeah, so after I finished my school in New York, then we moved to Easton, and I met John, and then we become a family.
Tell me where Easton is. I know it's in eastern Pennsylvania. You're kind of close to New Jersey, right? Where is Easton?
You mean where we live right now?
Yeah, just like John, maybe you could tell us kind of the geography. Where is it?
Yeah, so Easton is a large city here in what's called Northampton County. It's right on the border with New Jersey. So there's a lot of sort of crossover between the two communities on the New Jersey side, the Easton side. Our general impression is that it's a legacy community. And what I mean by that is you have families that generations after generations stay here. They have deep roots. But also, I think more recently in the last decade or so, there's been a lot of new residents coming from, like I did, from the North New Jersey, New York areas out here. Diverse, I would say, very diverse community and an engaged community for sure, with a lot of pride.
I should have looked at a map, but I want to say, what are you, about an hour north of Philadelphia or a couple hours north of Philadelphia, something like that?
Correct. About an hour and 15 minutes, I think.
Okay.
It's about 15 miles from Philadelphia.
All right. So you are to Philadelphia what I am to Pittsburgh. I'm in Pennsylvania, but I'm on the western side, and I'm a transplant as well. We came to Pennsylvania looking for a family adventure and found fun history, and so found a place that we were comfortable raising our kids. Now it seems, and I'm really hoping that I'm not clipping here. Yesterday I was having sound problems. Hopefully you're hearing me okay.
Yeah.
It seems that at some point Aubrey began to have some troubles in her life. She started to become what, and being a teenager is a hard thing. I mean, we've all done it, right? It's not an easy thing. So there's no judgment on this, but it does seem like she started to become a little troubled. Is that a fair characterization?
Yeah. So about when Aubrey's when after we moved to Easton, I work a really long hours, 6 days a week, and I at that time my mom is here as well, which is Aubrey's grandmother, and she will. I'm at work for like a long time. At that time, I was single, and I have to maintain that job to provide for my family. And I didn't have much time that I could spend with Aubrey, and she started to get in touch with some people that is not good, and yeah, she start having more freedom, which leads to some trouble.
Gotcha. Okay. I mean, this is the classic story, right? Of growing up. It seems like the people that you become friends with, they will lead you in all sorts of different directions, sometimes for the good, sometimes for the bad. Okay. Now, what I understand is that Aubrey ran away from home. The maybe we talked a little bit about this before we started here. There is some there's some negativity, well, on the internet, and the internet, I feel like it was built to create negativity or at least foster it. There is some negativity um, uh, being pointed toward you guys, learning that there is a CYS caseworker working with Aubrey, and the police coming over for a welfare check. You guys have been very, very open about this. These would be related to the kind of troubles that Aubrey was having. But can you tell me a little bit about January 10th, kind of leading up to the moment? I'm going to call it her disappearance. We understand that she ran away, but I feel like she had help doing it. So, leading up to that disappearance, walk us through that. Do you want to do that, John?
Sure. So the night prior, we did pick her up from her dance class. We decided to go out to eat. We thought it would be a safe place for us to have what we thought was initially more of probing her about this latest referral we got from CYS. Our interpretation of it was there's an upper class boy who was a member of a varsity, very popular varsity sport club here in the community. And our perspective was that she was taken advantage of, and we were probing her for details which were very difficult to get from her, which usually for us kind of raises our antennas a little bit. So we dug in a little bit. We asked to see her phone that we provide because we had given her a phone a few months earlier for her birthday. That
Mhm.
phone has several layers of parental controls, limiting things like the time of day it can be used, how long in a day it can be used, and for what purposes. And so we were a little surprised with the nature of the referral that could be something that she possibly, kind of found a workaround to those controls. And so when we looked at her phone, surprisingly, there was very little for the last like month in terms of phone calls, text messages. So I definitely began to think that maybe something was manipulated or removed from her phone. So on my own phone, because I pay for our family plan, I have those like back end details. And when I opened it up for her account, the calls matched, the texts matched, but there was a new tab there called Hotspot, uh, which was pretty stunning. We have Wi-Fi in our house. It's a small apartment that we rent. The Wi-Fi. I work from home. Jade works from home. No complaints about the Wi-Fi. So I was pretty surprised to see that the hotspot tab was on the bill. And when I clicked on it, and this is January 9th, the day before, the bill is 23 pages long on my phone, 9 days into a billing cycle. So I showed the phone to Jade first, knew we had a problem, began asking Aubrey, why might she be using the hotspot so much? She did let us know that, and kind of the way she said it was probably a little bit of a jab at us. She said that there's other kids at school whose parents don't let them use their phones during the day. So she was enabling the hotspot so that they could get on the internet. Well, the beautiful thing about AT&T is they let you select the time of day for your searches. So I just, removed 7 a.m. to 5 p.m. and the bill went from 23 pages to 21 pages. And so for Jade and I, we immediately know that there is a device in our home that would be being powered by this. The only things we were aware that she had was a television, a cell phone, and her school iPad. And the school iPad and the phone she leaves down on our kitchen table or over on the banister on the stairwell every night by about 10 o'clock. And she does do that every single night. So we know that there is another device in our house. That's where the conversation pivots to, because I guess what I would say is the CYS matter. It is a graphic CSAM style photo that it is centered around. We have the awareness that at least that photo would have been created on this device. So it becomes the priority of our conversation.
Okay, so I just want to repeat to make sure that I understand here just briefly. That evidence is pointing to another device that is using her phone as a hotspot. It's not internet enabled. It needs to be enabled on that hotspot.
Correct.
Why wasn't she using regular Wi-Fi with that device, I guess?
Aubrey, as one of her conditions, so we have sort of a framework in our home that's been provided to us by medical professionals who have done a study of Aubrey. And one of the things is she is not allowed to have access to our Wi-Fi. So, for example, like her school iPad, Mom and I, we would log that in, enter the password. She does have a smart TV in her bedroom that we got her for Christmas year before. And, she's got Hulu, Disney, Netflix, and all of those, of course, run on Wi-Fi, but we set them all up for her. So she doesn't know the Wi-Fi password in our house.
Okay, gotcha. Yeah, so she is having, she has a caseworker. She has medical professionals helping you guys. She, I guess she's just determined to get on the internet.
It seems like it. We never we've been working with CYS and from for a long time, and then at first that no, and not at first, but in last year our case was dismissed and found we are suitable parents, and then she made progress following all the recommendations, and then we were celebrated it. But then in a short time after that she there's something happened, we find out, and so then we actually initial to ask for CYS to continue give us help to a resource for Aubrey. So then they assigned therapists to come to our home. Other than that, we also use our private insurance to find more help for Aubrey, that we will take her to therapy weekly. as well as sign up for in-school counseling just in case she need to talk or she had being moody or anything that somebody at school is a resource for her to reach out for anything.
Gotcha. Gotcha. Yeah. Well, and in the keynote presentation that you guys shared online, you talked pretty openly about issues that she has had over the last few years. I would imagine. I mean, it's so hard to be a teenager anyway. But if you're struggling with these kinds of assaults, these kinds of it almost feels like this latest one, this is just my opinion, but it kind of feels like, okay, we've got an upperclassman, we've got is she a freshman or a sophomore or something? Yeah, so she's a freshman, kind of being able to manipulate her into doing things that she shouldn't be doing. She might also have that peer pressure of trying to fit in and finding ways to do that. It's very hard to be a teenager. And I think we understand now the circumstances under which she decided she was going to leave, right? So on January 10th, what happens that day?
Yeah, so January 10th, she has a what's called an in-home school day. There was the prior weekend, there was a school administrative member, I think it was a principal or a vice principal, had passed away. And
Uh,
so they had all the students do an in-home school day, so that I guess the community could go to the services for this administrator. Now there was some interesting sort of way that they were going to do attendance. They called the parents the night before, and they advised us that all the students were going to get a what's called first block period assignment. They were going to have that completed by 2 p.m. and turned in through their Schoolology program. Just by chance, at about 2:20, 2:30ish, I had asked Aubrey, "Hey, did you do that assignment?" She had no idea of the protocol for that day, and I even remember saying to her, "Are you sure?" Because they called mom and I like 15 times last night. The Easton School District has a thing with their robocalls. I think they
mhm.
want to make sure they're maximizing their contract. They call a lot, so we had plenty of awareness. And Aubrey was at the table all day. So as I mentioned, Jade and I work from home. Normally, I work in the basement. I've got a little desk set up there. Jade works in her art studio. But on that particular day, because we had the discovery of the device the night before, Aubrey normally would take a home from school day in her bedroom. She's got a nice desk set up in there, but we were concerned about the device. So we did ask her to do her work here at the kitchen table. So Aubrey and I were on opposite ends of our kitchen table. She had a U.S. history book about that thick. She was working out of all day. She was working on a project. I would say it was a little tense. I mean, she had some questions for me about, hey, how long am I going to be grounded? Looking into kind of probing some of the details. And my way of just answering her was, well, until the device gets turned over to mom and I don't think it's appropriate to talk about the punishment because the crime itself is still ongoing. And that's kind of where we're at. We had agreed that what we were going to do, because we were up very late Thursday night talking. Normally, she goes to bed at about 10 o'clock. We were talking till about midnight. So it was an out of the ordinary day for us. But of course, we all had to get up first thing in the morning Friday. So what we had planned to do was we put dinner on the stove. It was some soup that Jade was cooking for us. So it takes a couple of hours to simmer. And we all agreed we could use a nap, right? So at about maybe 5:30, we all retreat. Jade and I go to our bedroom. We use the sound machine because we sleep right behind us here, this very thin kitchen wall. The other side of that is our bedroom, and Aubrey's bedroom's upstairs. So we all go to lay down. There was one quirky thing. Right as we get in the bedroom and we're just ready to kind of cut the lights off, Aubrey comes down and asks if she could take a shower. which we all have our own sort of designated shower times because our shower is very tiny. It's off of our kitchen in the corner back there. We have no ventilation. So we basically shower with the door open. So we have like this dedicated time so that we don't overlap into that vicinity with each other. And Aubrey's time is between 8 and 9 o'clock. So when she asked, I would say it definitely struck us as odd, but not odd enough that we would think, oh, she's gonna run away. More odd, like, oh, I guess she's, maybe this is part of the rebellion for us figuring out the phone. Like a minor thing, I would just say. But now in hindsight, it does actually feel like a big thing in this situation because clearly she was doing some preparation and I don't think she just decided at 6:35 to go out her window. That this had some planning to it.
So, Jade, walk us through the time when you discovered that she was missing.
So we were in a nap, and then we heard really loud banging on our window about 8 o'clock, right?
Yeah.
About 8. And then, yeah, so we got up, and it was police come to our home to conduct a welfare check because there's a mother of a boy was really worried about Aubrey, that he claimed that he's been talking to Aubrey every day and he hasn't hear from her over 24 hours. So he's begging his mom to call our police department to come look for Aubrey.
All right.
So the police arrive around 8 and knocking on our door and windows, and then we can see through the window that there's like police lights is like beaming into our home.
Like they have those flashlights that are looking in or something.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, flashlights,
and they had their police car lights. It was an uncomfortable scene. They were all over our front lawn, our driveway. They came in full force. I would say that.
Yeah. So we got up and we haven't know what's going on, and they are asking for Aubrey and Siwoo, and then John yelled at upstairs to try to see if there's response from Aubrey, but we did not hear that. So then I went upstairs to her room. Then I didn't see Aubrey. So that was the moment that I knew that she's gone.
Now, through investigation, either yours or the police's, you guys discovered how she got out. I mean, she was really determined to leave.
Yes. So that night when I went into her room, it was dark, but I can see it's disturbed, and the window, especially the window, from our home ring camera, we can't see because our camera actually only like on the first floor, and her room is on the second floor, and we don't have footage that she walked out of the door or anything like that. So at that point, we don't exactly know, but that's likely from the window. But we don't know until later that night, because that night, after police left, I thought of our neighbor might have. Well, I just walked around our property, and then I saw that our upstairs neighbor has a ring camera. So then I asked, well, we request and ask for if there's any footage that involved with Aubrey. So we hear from our neighbor probably around
About midnight.
sometime after midnight, like maybe 12:30 or something. So then he sent us the video that his camera caught Aubrey left home about 6:40 p.m.
Okay. John, the way I understand it is she left the window, got on the roof, jumped over to the neighbor's roof, and climbed down from there.
Correct. Yeah. So it's not really, when you say jump, it's more of like a stretching your leg out from is kind of like the way the corner is set up.
Yeah.
So there's like, but I would say, I mean,
She's not
the
James
roof.
Bond or Jason Bourne up there, but she's still on a roof,
She's
right?
close to it though. Don't get me wrong. It's close to it. She had to pull some cable wires off the house, so she would slipped herself like between the cable wires and the siding of our home. She did have to climb over a pretty large grill. Like this is a pretty small, tight balcony that our neighbor has, and so she had to come over the top of a grill. So when you see the footage, it's like she comes like out of this like upper angle into the line of sight of his camera, and I mean, I did not think until we saw the footage that that was actually how she left our home. In fact, when the police were here, we were reviewing our camera footage because we have a camera in our living room and we have one in our front door and one in our kitchen, and we were reviewing those together with the police. And one of the last in-home footage of Aubrey was at about 6:30. She stopped directly in front of our front door, which has blinds only. So if there's like a vehicle in front of the house, given that it was dark, you would see the lights on. And
Mhm.
she kind of stops in front of it for like 10 to 15 seconds. But she's not right at the window. She's just maybe a body's distance away, but clearly where she would see if there was a car idling. And that was our first theory, and as well as the police's at that point. We thought maybe she was just standing there waiting for, because the camera only records like 30 seconds or so. It kind of looked like maybe she was waiting for the camera to stop, and then probably she just opened the front door and left. But the front door wasn't disturbed. There was no footage on the front ring camera, which that would have activated as
Yeah.
she went out the door. And so when Jade had this idea to ask our neighbor, I didn't even know the guy had a camera. We've never even talked to the guy. Just a young guy. He's only lived there for a couple of months. Him and his mother, and he got back to us a few hours. He actually saw us on his camera footage on his balcony, looking at his camera, and then he, stopped at the house. We happened to still be outside when he got home, and because we were waiting for Aubrey, and it was about midnight. And he came over, introduced himself, and he asked, like, "Can I ask why you're on my balcony?" And we explained to him that we were thinking maybe he might have some footage. So as he did, and then we turned that over to the police immediately because we finally now had an answer as to how she got out of the house, because the window in her room was actually configured just to fit a window fan. Um, it, honestly, I mean, I would have never thought she could have made it through the window. And
Wow.
I think that's probably why she didn't leave with her winter jacket, because I think with a jacket on, I don't think she would be able to make it through that opening.
Let's see. There are a couple of questions that are coming in here real quick. I think you've answered this one, but let's just bring it up. This is from Jess. She says, "I read that Aubrey was going into state custody, and that might be why she ran away. Is there any truth to that?"
So it's yes and no. It was not decided that she was going into state custody, and we shouldn't say state custody. The right way of wording that is inpatient treatment facility.
I see.
So yeah, so this isn't an issue of Aubrey being given away or put up for adoption. Although, as Aubrey's interpretation and her questions to us, there was a lot of questions about foster care. If you're familiar with CYS and the way their process works, they always have what's called a Plan A and then a Plan B, and they run concurrent to each other. And so the Plan B was adoption for Aubrey, but that's, I believe, just standard. But she did have questions about that. But I can tell you, and we've shared with authorities because we do have those footages. Her and mom talked it out, and I would say Jade was 100% clear that our desire was for Aubrey to get help that we and her team suggested that she critically needed, but that we deeply loved her and of course would want her after that treatment to return to the home with us. So there was never any question from our side about Aubrey's next steps. It was just, I would say, the it was kind of a split 50-50 on do we continue outpatient, or do we make this big change, which would be quite dramatic? It would be, several months of a stay, and it would be longer than a previous stay she had. So it would be on the length of like 6 to 8 months. So very, very disruptive, right? And what we were trying to do was thread the needle between her school performance, her involvement in school, with this idea that she's young enough now to get the right treatment, and she would still have several years of, quote unquote, normal high school afterwards, versus the more we keep kicking the issue down the road, the more impactful it becomes to things like college and stuff that are really important to Aubrey.
I just, Monday morning quarterbacking here, like obviously, like I can't imagine how hard this is. And every kid is hard. My wife and I, we have 5 children. They're all hard. They're tough, right? They're oftentimes no fun, and sometimes just full of joy and elation. It's like a real roller coaster with children. But I mean, is it possible that just in the mind of a kind of disturbed, definitely abused, not by you, but an abused child, that she just didn't understand that and started to think, hey, these are my only options, I got to run?
I mean, honestly, Gavin, it's Jade and I talk about it all the time, trying to understand what was in her mind. I mean, there's, a big part of our home life together, and we do therapy as a family. We also all do it separately. Jade and I do it as a couple. So we come at this from a lot of angles, and we ratified not too long ago our family goals. And I'm looking over here at the wall. And the number one goal, and it was something that Aubrey took a lot of pride in, was improved trust. And from time to time, she would, tell us she couldn't trust us, because, she would feel like we were maybe making some decisions about her mental health treatment, and she wasn't fully part of the process. But I think most parents would agree that's, how it
Yeah,
has
that
to be.
seems pretty normal. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And she would, make sure we understood that she felt outside the process at times. But I think maybe even a bigger issue for her was this CYS referral and the burner phone. It kind of shatters in a very dramatic way what she was most proud about, which was she would say to us, I'm doing great in school. I'm doing great in therapy. I'm fantastic with my chores. I'm making better decisions. When you read some of the notes that we found in Aubrey's room, she's very self-critical, and how she describes sort of at times being reckless with the internet and some of those activities. And I think just as much as what was going to happen through the mental health journey, Gavin, honestly, I think some of it is just ego, and knowing that accountability bill is on the horizon. One of the things she said to us the night of the 9th, and I was stunned when she said it, but in the end, she actually was telling us the truth, was her way of kind of deflecting our attention from the CYS referral. Was she was adamant that it was an AI photo. It was not her in the photo. It was a gag. And she suggested to us that the principal at her high school had even already interviewed her about it, and he believed her, that it was an AI photo. And I remember Jade and I looked at each other. We just kind of blew the comment off as like, no way would the principal question you about that kind of an issue and not make us aware.
Especially considering how engaged you are at the school, right?
Exactly. Yeah. And, tearfully, maybe a week or so after she was gone, he did tell us. We actually forgot she made the comment. Let's put it that way. It was such like a throwaway moment. We didn't even think twice about it. And then he volunteered to us and said that he realizes he made a very big mistake, and that he felt very, very bad about it. In hindsight, he just doesn't understand why he did what he did. And just we spoke to him just yesterday. We talk to him every week, and we said, yeah, we also are really uncomfortable, and this will be something that will have to be followed up on at an appropriate time. But yeah, I think we know some things that have happened behind the scenes on her secret phone right around that same exact day of the conversation with the principal. That looks like it became a countdown to January 10th. And I think it was just a matter of Aubrey would have been aware that the matter was also referred to the Easton City Police, not just the high school. So it's like she got lucky with the first conversation. She doesn't realize she also got lucky with the second one because the police had a wrong phone number. So they also never contacted us. But earlier in the day on Thursday, January 9th, we had another call about this issue of Aubrey's treatment with CYS. It's a 27-minute conversation. And in the 25th minute, they asked us what our thoughts were on the latest referral. And that was the first Jade and I learned. And the way they depicted it to us was that Aubrey, in their opinion, was a victim of an upper class boy who, had some sway over her. And they were just mainly more curious what Jade and I's feelings, like, did that track with their assessment. So it wasn't like anyone was looking at Aubrey as a bad actor in this. It really was the way the referral was submitted. It was about the image, but the person who made the referral was actually one of Aubrey's girlfriends. And what she wrote in the referral essentially was she was very concerned that Aubrey had a very blasé reaction and didn't really have much of an emotional reaction to this idea that spreading throughout the upper class ranks are photos of her and a boy. And that girl was just very concerned for Aubrey's mental state. And that's why she made the referral.
Was the upperclassman still a juvenile himself, or was he? Yeah. Wow. Kids are making, one of the reasons that this case struck me is just the fear of a parent, right? There, Aubrey seems to have done and it's because of youth and inexperience. It's because of a lack of wisdom that comes with experience, right? It's not, it can all be explained by her youth and her circumstance. But I think all of us are just thinking, what are my children doing when they're playing Roblox, or, when they're on their phone or whatever? They just don't understand the danger that they're putting themselves in by doing things that they think are just normal. I guess it's scary.
Yeah, I mean, Gavin, it's probably for us the hardest pill of all to swallow here because, we had these recommendations that came from a psychosexual evaluation that Aubrey took courtesy of the state of Pennsylvania. And it did create a rather tough framework for a 14-year-old, and especially one like Aubrey, who's so social and already had freedoms and phones and kind of unrestricted access at a point in time when she was much younger, to now have these protections in place for her. Ultimately, it was not the phone that we provided. It was not the home that we provided. It was another young boy at a bus stop who had a crush on Aubrey. And for Black Friday, his parents upgraded his iPhone. So he traded her his iPhone. She gave him a turkey sandwich and a little bit of extra attention at the bus stop, being friendly with him. And from there, all she needed was to understand how to use the hotspot on our device. And that's a big failing I have to live with, that it just never occurred to me to check that part of her phone. I'm busy looking at, things like text messages, contacts, web history, right? Making sure she's being appropriate. It never occurred to me that there would be another device in our house that she would have had.
Yeah. One of the, I guess, I don't want to put it delicately for you, just it is a delicate kind of thing, but one of the reasons I think that, how do I want to say this? Dang it. The state of Pennsylvania, when it comes to, my day job is as a reporter, and kind of my personal jihad is transparency in government. And state of Pennsylvania sucks at it really bad. And so when things like this happen in Pennsylvania, the media doesn't really react to it very much because they can't get enough information to make a good report on it, because Pennsylvania sucks at being transparent. And that's why I was like, we've got a missing girl in Pennsylvania and nobody's going to report on it because it's Pennsylvania. But I understand that this may have gone outside of the Commonwealth. This may have some federal issues or some federal ramifications here. So I hope that means that we're going to get more new media attention on this case. Now that we know a little bit about Aubrey and the circumstance, I mean, we kind of went into the details the other night using your presentation on how it is that she got wherever it is that she went, because that's the question mark, right? There, she had help, and she had like grown-up help, adult help.
Yeah, no doubt.
Let me ask you about your experience with the authorities, the police, the federal authorities. Are they taking this case serious? Are they working to bring your daughter home? And then what are some of the things that we can do as just lay people, what can we do to help bring Aubrey home?
So I think the experience working with law enforcement, personally, I'm pretty disappointed, because whenever we discover or have any information regarding to finding Aubrey or prior to her leaving, we always like immediately give them all the access, all the information, cooperates to the max. But I did not hear from our police department to give me any updates. I even learned about my child's news on the news, not hear from the authorities. I hear from the news about my daughter that it's been missing for 10 weeks tomorrow.
Yeah.
So at that point, like throughout all this time, I am really disappointed of the communication between me and the authorities. I would expect a lot more. I do understand that during an active investigation, they can't give me all the details of what they are doing, but I just want to know that you are working on it, and it's not too much to expect for a weekly phone call or something like that. But I just don't hear from them. And then when I went to our local board meetings of our township, while I'm reading statements of informing them of this matter to other leaders of our community, I even saw somebody on the board rolling eyes on me. So it's heartbroken to be treated this way, and it's terrible for the it's terrible on top of terrible.
Now, from the more optimistic going forward perspective, Gavin, so we started this week with a meeting with the chief detective of Northampton County and a detective from the FBI. There's a follow-up meeting coming, but what I will say is within the first 30 minutes of that meeting, Jade and I had more information from them than we had received in 9 weeks from the Palmer police. We had, throughout the course of that meeting, several of our assertions that we have made both in the media, in our Facebook Live meetings, and very aggressively on camera. We had those confirmed as valid by these two individuals. They are going to be reopening the books on past matters that, in their words, the ball was dropped by multiple law enforcement jurisdictions, including maybe even the district attorney's office in Northampton, who now has a new leader. And I would say very honestly, Jade and I, maybe if you talked to us 1 week ago, we were quite frustrated with our district attorney. We feel very differently after the meeting on Monday. And we're very confident that they took the matter very serious. They took a lot of information from us. It was some things I would just say things will be happening, and people will very noticeably see that. I think what's gone on here is maybe there was frustration on the part of Palmer Police Department that Jade and I refused to follow the missing kid playbook, which is, as we've been told by so many parents who have come to our house and spoke to us about their missing child situations. Generally, the police want the families stay low key, stay quiet, say your prayers, wait it out. And while you're doing that waiting and while you're quiet, your child is going through things that are unimaginable, traumas that are going to scar them for the rest of their lives. And Jade and I already, as now the world knows Aubrey's background, our feeling was this kid's already had too many lifetimes of trauma, and we'd be damned if we were going to sit in our living room and keep our mouths shut and keep all of this a secret. I think one of the biggest mistakes we made in the last year and a half was we kept everything too quiet. While we were getting these mind-blowing diagnoses and recommendations for what felt like an in-home prison, didn't feel good, the result that now Aubrey was gone and walking herself into significantly more danger. And we expected the police to take Aubrey's matter very serious. We knew that she went out, by midnight. We know she went out a window. The roof is rickety and unstable.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, she's already showed some really difficult decision making just getting out of her window. And certainly as that Saturday night, we get a phone call that she's with some unknown older woman who's being aggressive and, having her in a truck and taking off. Our impression when we call 911 is that's an Amber Alert moment. We don't have the license plate, but we have a description. We have a make, model of the vehicle. We have a phone number of the woman who has her. And we have this story from this family that is saying they don't know who she is. And they're showing us messages that Aubrey wrote them where she's saying, I'm going to bed. I'm going out of the state tomorrow. Jade and I mean, it's sheer panic. And their way of handling that, the lackadaisical nature of it taking 2 hours for the lead detective to get back in touch with us. I mean, Gavin, if you went through our deck, then you know our timeline. I mean, within 25 minutes, we've made calls to 2 police jurisdictions. We've called this woman herself 7 or 8 times. Well, I've sent text messages. I sent a text message to the lead detective. I made a phone call to the lead detective. And then we get a phone call 2 hours later that, by the time the state police got there, the woman tells them she just ran out the back door 20 minutes ago. And that I thought that was unacceptable. And then, Jade and I, we get a general description. They obviously wouldn't tell us where the woman lived, but they gave us an idea that it was near Parkland Regional High School, which was 30 minutes or so from our house. But we drove right out there. And, as Jade and I are driving those roads, there's no lights. There's one lane, backcountry roads. And I'm saying to Jade, where are the police? Where are the state troopers going up and down the road looking for the kid? There was nobody at all. There was only a few places still open. Jade ran into an Applebee's on MacArthur Road. It did give us a little bit of comfort because, when she comes back out to the car, Jade said the young girl already knew state police was in here about 15 minutes before us. So they were out there, right? We do have evidence they were looking. But I got to be honest, now that we know from the surveillance footage and all these other things, I mean, the kid is walking up and down MacArthur Road. If you're not from that area, it's a major highway, but it has like businesses and restaurants all on both sides. And she's walking with this gigantic red bag and a sweatshirt with big, bright red arms. And that's exactly the description they had. I'm stunned they couldn't find her. We've now seen the footage. She's just walking between a Wawa and a Panera right at the time that the state police were supposed to be in that area. But ironically enough, where that woman lives relative to where Aubrey is at basically the exact same time is actually 2 hours by foot. So with that woman, her story that Aubrey left on foot, the police are actually checking an area similar to where we are. They're not where she actually was. And it wasn't until about 2.5 weeks ago we were first told, and I think it was because the police just got the footage, she was actually driven to the Wawa.
So was it, do they know who?
Yes.
Okay. Hey, getting back real quick, you had a meeting with the chief county detective. I think that's what you said in the FBI. I just want to try to figure out who this person is. So I think every county has the county detectives that work directly for the district attorney's office.
Correct.
Is that who you're working with?
Yes.
Okay,
so the chief detective of Northampton County.
Okay, so this has been escalated, let's say.
Correct.
And I also want to say I feel very appreciative of this meeting, and I feel like they are really having a very good attitude to really listen to us and to learn about this case. So right now, I feel optimistic that they will have more knowledge and more awareness of how serious is this case, more than just a runaway. Based on many evidence that we've been organized and present. And I really appreciate their time to really listen to us and hear our concerns. So right now, I'm just looking forward to what their findings and serve justice.
Yeah, I would say 2 words, Gavin, for that meeting: empathy and communication.
That's good.
And those were things that we have been railing on the Palmer chief of police and his team for weeks, that they have been just absolutely lacking in dealing with us. They've been, if anything, and I hate to use a word like this, but I will. They've been hostile towards us. And the thing is, we're not under investigation. We have, brought matters involving Aubrey to Palmer, to the same detective that was handling her missing child case. So I think maybe Jade and I had high expectations that, given their background and their direct interactions with Aubrey and understanding of her background, that they would see this exactly how these guys did on Monday. And on Monday, we had to bring the psychosexual evaluation because they don't know Aubrey's case. They're not officially taking over it. They were there to see what we had. I can say they were very impressed by what we had. And they were there to, bridge the gap of whatever's going on in our own community here. because between the Palmer police and I would say the local rumor mill locally, it's taken this thing, the focus on what it should be, which is Aubrey, and put it in numerous places it doesn't need to be.
Jade, you talked about going and talking to the township. What would that have been? The meeting of the township supervisors, probably something like that. And they rolled their eyes at you. Does it kind of feel one of the things that's been really frustrating to me as I've been, investigating some really horrific cases is that it seems like people who are known to law enforcement, maybe the cynicism of law enforcement, they start to treat them as less than valuable, as not less than human, but of less value. Did that feel maybe when that eye roll was happening there that they were just like, oh, well, this is just another girl that's troubled, another runaway. It's not that big of a deal. What do you think they were communicating there?
I can't talk for him, but how I feel is like he's tired of hearing it, and he's just can't wait for it to be ended of my speech, maybe. I don't know. Or they have some sort of opinion about us, but what we really want to deliver is just, please, this sense of urgency. I'm disappointed you are not treating it as serious, and we've been trying our best to provide whatever information, and I would just want to know about my kid, because before my statement, it was chief of police was telling the board that what a great job that they are doing. But
exhaustive search is
yeah,
the phrase he used.
And a superior job?
Yeah, that was the back slap he got from one of the board supervisors.
Yeah, but that superior job did not include communicate with parents, me, mom.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm very frustrated, and I want them to hear me that this matter is serious. My daughter is in danger right now, and I'm super disappointed that every time that we go to the police and report all the incidents that my daughter was a victim and being taken advantage, but there's no justice served. And they don't even tell me why. And again and again from the authorities, like they are not doing what is supposed to be done. My daughter was 14, but is 14 now, but the history of working with them is 13, 12.
Yeah.
And you can't give me an attitude of like at the day that they come to my house for a welfare check, the day that Aubrey left, officer give me an attitude of, oh, is she up to her thing again? Like that's what she said. And that already set the tone and the attitude of how they are going to handle this matter, saying it like it's completely Aubrey's fault.
And
I'm not saying Aubrey has no part of it, but Aubrey is a kid. So whoever behind this, that is the adult that is helping her or anything like that.
Right.
So I expect them to treat it a lot more serious because it's a crime.
And
yes, they're adults.
What I wanted to add, that officer that Jade's referring to, we released that to the public so people could see exactly what their attitude was and that first night. And what's the most stunning about that individual officer is, first of all, months earlier, she was brought in to do a level 2 trauma interview with Aubrey related to a SA event that we reported. And for Jade and I, this officer was portrayed to us. First of all, we thought she was a detective with a specialized skill set. She's actually, and not to be disparaging, but she's a foot patrol officer, just happened to be female. And when she comes in our house, this attitude of like, she's portraying Aubrey as a troublemaker. And I said to Jade afterwards, and that's why I wanted to make sure we had the footage and I released it. was her only previous contact with Aubrey was in a trauma interview where Aubrey is a victim. I was stunned at this characterization that she had to have had in that incident and now carrying it into this incident. And, that first night we had to call them back at like 1 a.m, right? We wanted to let them know we had the footage. And our other question was, what do we do? What are you doing? Is anyone driving around? Anyone looking? Are you calling any more of our friends? Yeah. And they were just like, well, if she's not back by, midday tomorrow, give us a call back and, we'll look into it a little bit more. And
so they just took a report. They just took a report to missing person.
Oh, 100%. They left our house. Gavin, they were there for a welfare check from a mother calling, saying her juvenile son was hysterically crying. They didn't leave our living room. They never checked anywhere in our house, which was confirmed to us on Monday in this meeting, is protocol. When the police are reporting for a welfare check and that child is not in that home, they are supposed to do due diligence and check our home. And they didn't do it. And what's interesting is on Sunday the 12th, 24 hours after, Aubrey has allegedly escaped from this woman who identity we don't know at that time, but we have a general description that she's in her mid-60s. We drove to the community so we could see it's different than ours, right? Big homes, stuff like that.
Oh, and it was more upscale?
Exactly. And wow. I called our detective because, again, we had this relationship for months, so I know him pretty well. And I said, hey, Brian, I just want to get from you 100% confirmation that the Pennsylvania State Police walked through her house, because we weren't calling in a welfare check. We were calling in a 911 that an unknown adult has our daughter. You can tell me that happened, right? And he became pretty hostile towards us. It escalated into a bit of a shouting match, which I was stunned because he made a comment about, we know our daughter, as in like in a negative thing, like no way the woman would be lying. Of course, Aubrey would be the kind of kid to run out a back door into the woods. And I remember saying to him on that, and it was him and several other officers, we were on speaker, I said, that isn't what the issue here, our daughter. The issue is, can you tell me the Pennsylvania State Police entered that woman's home and did a thorough check? Because I want to remind you, our daughter sent text messages to this boy saying, I'm going home, I'm going to go to bed, and I'm leaving out of the state tomorrow. Are we sure she just wasn't in the house hiding? Yeah. And the woman lied to you. And it was 2 days of back and forth with them. He told us, he gave us a barracks number to call. The trooper who made the visit to the home, we were never able to reach that trooper.
The CSOs at the trooper. Yeah. The CSOs answer it, and their job is to not let you pass the CSO. It's the worst.
Yeah, it was incredible. So what we ended up doing was we were super frustrated. So then we went to politicians locally and said, we need your help to apply pressure on the police. We want to know that this woman has been fully vetted. And that leads to this phone call from the detective finally on January 18th, 8 days after she was with this woman. And what we get is an updated timeline. So what we initially thought and were told was that this woman found Aubrey sleeping on her lawn in the middle of the night. That's it. And the woman took her in, had her in the house, and then brought her to this boy's house at about 8 p.m. Saturday, January the 11th. Well, when our detective calls us 8 days later, he tells us, well, she told me she bumped into your daughter while she was walking her dog at about 10 o'clock. Sit down, John and Jade. I'm going to tell you this, but I don't want you to overreact. She's also acknowledged to me that she took your daughter to a dog show in New Jersey. And she brought her back. She let her shower. She let her use her phone. She fed her. And then, yes, now you're up to speed on the timeline. At about 8 o'clock, she took her to Copley to see this boy where they were surprisingly turned away from his family. And then she was bringing Aubrey back to her home, and Aubrey just ran out the back door into the woods. Now, there's so many things about that, Gavin, that are just.
No, that's one of those things where it's like the behavior. Like, okay, I didn't grow up well to do in my family, but I would say we would call it adjacent to well to do, right? It's like if some girl is like sleeping on the bench in my parents' front yard or in one of my friends' parents' front yard or something like that, there is a behavior that most people will do, and that is try to help, but also like your call will be to 911. It always will be. It'll always be to police, right? So if she's saying, "No, I just wanted to help this girl. I did this, I did that, let her shower, I delivered her," no, my BS meter is just, no way.
This woman lives next door to a high school, Gavin, for probably 20 years plus.
Yeah.
Lots of interactions with juveniles.
Yeah.
We agree. And if you want to drink the Kool-Aid, or we call it here the Ghoul-Aid, because we think she's a ghoul with this logic that we're all supposed to buy that this is normal behavior. But one of the things that was most frustrating was right from the start, Saturday the 11th, there was this very, what now feels like intentional depiction of this woman as naive and just a nice old lady, bakes warm cookies in the oven and has milk out for you. And we have come to learn she is anything but that. This is a woman who on Sunday, January 12th, got behind the wheel of a hunking black SUV and drove it to Colorado. 20-something hours. She's run a very successful multi-million-dollar business that she inherited from her family. She's well educated. We've met many people in her community who know her and her family, and naive is the last word any of them use to describe her.
Doesn't describe her. Hey, this question came in from Lee. I've kept it on the screen for a while. We do need to wrap up. We're about an hour, a little over an hour out into this, I think. Yeah. What is it that we can do to help? Jade, why don't you start? Tell us what you think. What can we do?
So please, first you can join our group. We have a Facebook group of the name is Aubrey's Not Found, and in this group we have many videos that we've been documenting and our live videos about Aubrey's matter, and then please print out flyers and put it nearby where you live, because at this point, Aubrey, tomorrow is 10 weeks. She really could be anywhere in the state. So in our group, at the file, we have the PDF print version that you can print, and also if it's possible to put it on your car window, that will attract a lot of attention. I often see people will come up to our car to read the flyer.
Yeah.
So please, like a physical flyer, print out and then spread it around where you are and your car, and then online, please repost. Repost as much as you can at different places, that groups that you are in, with your friends, with your family. And another thing is with the juveniles, that if they are using social media, which like Snapchat, those are the Snapchat, TikTok, Pinterest. These platforms are what Aubrey would use. So please share that message on those platforms as well.
Do you think that Aubrey now does have a device and she would be herself on things like Snapchat and things like that?
I think if
No, go ahead.
It's a tough one for us to weigh in on, Gavin. If she is safe and capable, yes. We know the 5 weeks prior to leaving, she was on the internet almost 24/7, on social media, on multiple platforms. And And just to know her is to know our nickname for Aubrey is Yabbers, because she's almost never in a contemplative mode. Lots of
She's a social creature.
Exactly.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
if she's safe and capable, yeah, I would think she is aware, and so we're trying to think about what her mindset would be right now, and how do we, position some messaging to her, because this has become pretty big and pretty well known. I mean, her face has been on billboards on the highway. She's on national media. She's everywhere. She's. We're just hoping that we've done the right thing, because, there's concerns that she could be afraid, right, of this. If she's running from accountability January 10th, I mean, it's safe to say on whatever today's date is, March. I mean, the bill has gotten bigger, but I think our support system for her has also exponentially increased. And I hope, and I think Aubrey is smart enough to see that. We've got 2 lawyers, we've got 20,000 people all together that are supporting her. There's probably 20,000 more who don't support Mom and I, but are supporting Aubrey, right? So I think Aubrey's savvy enough to see that full picture, and if she can, we're very hopeful that she'll come home soon.
Yeah. So please don't stop sharing her flyers online and in different platforms or talk about, because I think that what we are experiencing right now is also a good lesson for both child and parents as well, that how to prevent this to happen, or maybe more communication, or just to, I don't know, a reminder of it. Yes, so please still join our group and then learn more about it, or just print flyers and spread it out within your reach. And I'm wholeheartedly appreciate anything, a prayer or anything about caring about Aubrey and help to find Aubrey. Thank you very much.
Thank you. So yeah, Lee, great question. Thank you for giving that our last question. Let's join Aubrey's Not Found. I think I just showed it, but let me just show it one more time here on Facebook. It's 10,000 people there. One of the things that I think you guys have done so well is that you've created these files here that can help all of us to figure out what to do, right? So download the flyer, print it off, share her picture everywhere. I did notice also, you guys, I know that you didn't ask this, but I did notice that you have a GoFundMe account. I know if you've got lawyers involved, then this is going to be an expensive thing. So I've put that link in the description down below. Help them out if you can help them do that. And then you guys are welcome back anytime. And we've got a good community here on my channel. We're all willing to help, and we appreciate you doing this even in the hardest moment of your life. We deeply appreciate it.
May I have one last thing that
Please.
I want? Yes. Yeah. So if you happen to encounter Aubrey, if that happens, please call 911 immediately and reference her police report number, which is 25-00323. 25-00323. And call 911 immediately. And then if you can, take a picture or a video of her. Then after the 911 call, you can contact John, which his cell phone number is on the flyer, and send us the picture or the video. Then we can effectively spot if that is Aubrey or not.
Yeah, we have had many sightings in the last 2 weeks, and it was documenting isn't exactly either of our fortes, but we thought there would be value in doing that and creating those guides. So thank you for that, Gavin. But that one in particular, people are really adhering to that. We had a sighting in Oklahoma. We had one in New York State. We had one very local. We had one in another part of Pennsylvania, and everybody followed the process. And what's good about that is that we're able to pick up the phone, call that jurisdiction, and say, okay, we would like the update on what's going on. How is it being handled? Do you have somebody on the scene already? People have hit us with ring camera footages. And while none of them have been Aubrey, the process is at work. Also on the law enforcement side, right? When you follow that process, you give them the police report, they know you're serious, they know the situation's serious, and they respond appropriately too. Whereas if you call them up and you're just kind of lackadaisical with the details, or you're not wanting to stay on the phone with them too long, they treat it with the same urgency you do. So if you go through your due diligence, trust me that they do, and that's one thing I want to give current law enforcement a lot of credit for. I've had just yesterday we had something that was going on in the Pocono area, and man, this officer from East Stroudsburg, this guy must have called me 5 times in 15 minutes, and I wish I remembered his name.
Took you seriously.
That's awesome. Very, very serious, and it was a bizarre, very, very bizarre situation from the start to the end, including the juvenile who fit Aubrey's general description. This juvenile was in a homeless shelter, but the person said they brought him to a hospital. Then the juvenile themselves called the police and wanted them to go and get her social security number and call her back with it, but do not come to her in person. And before I could even ask the question, the guy said, "You better believe I'm going there in person and I'm going to make eyeball contact on this individual." And then he called us back and said, it's not your daughter. But yeah, there's just a lot of interesting things going on in our world, right? And
it's good that you have that process. I want to really quick show just a couple things. This is in your deck. She has a little heart tattoo on the top of her left arm, kind of close down by her wrist. She's got a little tattoo on the pad of her thumb, 2 stars on the pad of her thumb. She wears multiple earrings in her ears. She's got long, flowing black hair. She's about 5 feet tall, 145 pounds. Beautiful smile. It's got a youthful smile, and maybe the kind of that canine there on the left side is kind of a tell as well. I'm just trying to think of these, descriptions of her that you might notice about her. She has a very distinctive look, so be on the lookout for it. And if you see little tattoos like this, you are in the right direction. Jade and John, thank you very much for joining me tonight. I really appreciate it, and we will print off flyers and we will hang them up and we will share on online social media. Thanks for being here.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
All right, hang out for just a second, okay?
Oh, yeah.
Guys, thanks so much for tuning in tonight. This is a case that this is something where we can make a difference. We're not just talking about something that's already happened, something that we really don't have any power to do anything about. In Aubrey's case, we have some power to help. So please go join the Facebook group, grab the flyer, print it out, hang it up, share it all over social media, and follow that process that Jade and John just told us about. It's on this flyer. It's titled Aubrey's Flyer right there. Okay. All right. Tomorrow we are going to be circling back around to the Madeline Soto case. We've got some more audio to listen to from the the state's attorney's office from the 9th District there in Florida. So that'll be tomorrow at 7:30 p.m. Please remember that you can always contact me on my website. I don't want you to contact me in Aubrey's case. I want you to follow the process. Contact the police, then contact Jade and John. Follow that process. It's very important. If you ever want to contact me for any other thing, you click on this little icon and that will send you to this form. You can reach out to me. If there's anything that, no. follow the process, okay? And then if you want to join me on Facebook, we are the Fish Tank. It looks like this. Just search the Fish Tank or search Gavin Fish. You will find it. Okay, with that, I will bid you adieu, and I will see you tomorrow night. Take care. Thank you very much for watching this video. If you liked what you saw, please consider subscribing. And if you have any questions or comments, please leave them below.